I somehow stumbled into a networking event in the Houston area where I met a bunch of wholesalers. And one of my struggles was I couldn't find a house that made sense on that formula that I had learned on the internet. And these wholesalers had them. So I'm like, okay, now I know where to buy the houses.
So you got some social proof.
I had some social proof.
And that changes your mindset.
That changed my mindset. I knew it was possible to buy these houses now. The numbers made sense. And that's how I ended up getting my first property.
This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'm here with Ricardo Rosales. He's from Houston, Texas. The man's a house buying machine. He's also been through some adversity, as all of us do. But I love his attitude. I love his mindset. Can't wait to talk to the man. How you doing, Ricardo?
I'm doing great. I'm happy and blessed to be here today, Mitch.
You drove all the way over from Houston just to sit with little old me at this desk, and I'm really honored. I didn't think people would drive that far to talk to me.
Oh, frankly. I would have probably gone further if you had lived a little bit further away. It's a great excuse to get my wife and my son out of my truck as well. So
I appreciate it. You took the time to come down. So give us a little background real quick, like the abbreviated version. But so from the understanding, you're a party animal, went into the service.
That's correct.
Then you went to the oil fields.
That's correct.
And then?
While I was in the oil field, I started doing real estate investing, but it was as a passive investor. I will buy some houses, fix them all up, and then try to sell them, but ended up renting most of them.
Yeah, but you were doing it from afar then, or were you? How many days on, how many days off?
Well, I didn't have a rotation because I worked on service. So sometimes I would work 4 or 5 days. Sometimes it would be 45 days. So it was tough to keep up with projects.
And you said that you have stepped foot on every continent in the globe.
Pretty much. I worked in Africa. I've seen the best and the worst of the world. Africa was an eye opener for me, and I wish everybody would once go to Africa to understand really what trying to live looks like.
Yeah, how good we have it, huh?
How great we have it.
Yeah. So you're going on. Obviously, you're in the oil fields. A rough life, right?
I wouldn't say it was rough. I would say it was tough, or not in my case for me, but maybe for my family.
That's what I mean.
I've always been used to being away. So when I was in the military, it's not like I had a choice.
Yeah.
So I had to be on the ship and out to sea and all this. Now when I transitioned into the oil field, it was sort of the same life, but now I get to fly first class. I get to make a lot of money, go to all these different beautiful countries, everything paid for. So in a sense, it was a huge upgrade for me, lifestyle-wise, going from the military to the oil field.
Yeah, and so then obviously you keep continuing education because now you're making some money, and like the question is, what do I do with it?
Right.
So how do you come to the conclusion real estate?
Well, I had two choices. When I was working offshore, most of my friends, after they got out of the rig, they either went to party or drinking or gambling or something that had to do with fun. Mm-hmm. Maybe riding four-wheelers, those kind. They had a lot of toys, and I wasn't that type of guy. Even though I used to be a party animal before, I had some money, and I was like, man, what do I do? And how do I make this money work for me instead of me having to work for the money so much? Because now I understood that if I put a lot of effort, I could make a lot of money. But somehow I wanted that money to produce more eggs, and that's probably my dad will give me books when I was a kid. The Richest Man in Babylon.
I read that book.
Think and Grow Rich. And so I had all those things in my subconscious mind telling me that I needed to go do something. And one day I'm watching TV on my couch, and I get to see a show of a guy flipping houses, actually out of San Antonio. I'm not gonna mention any names, but and I was like, man, this guy gets to make like 30-40 grand just by buying a house, fixing it up, and selling it. And that got my interest in real estate. And I think it was 6 months after that I had bought my first property. So didn't know what I was doing.
That was almost me on that show, you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I could have watched you and I would have been inspired by Mitch. There you go.
Hey, it doesn't matter as long as you got inspired.
I got inspired.
So you start devouring courses or books, or what was the first step for you?
So the first step for me was basically the internet, because back in 2008, I didn't I was not in the network to where I could access gurus or people teaching, there, and the information on the internet about these people was very vague. It was probably before its infancy stage. So it was all about learning, okay, how do I buy a house right? What's the 70% rule? How do I get hard money loans? It was very educational on the basics. And I think it took me 3 to 4 months to understand the basics of it by what I could read on the internet and maybe a couple of books that I bought. After that, I somehow stumbled into a networking event in the Houston area where I met a bunch of wholesalers. And one of my struggles was I couldn't find a house that made sense on that formula that I had learned on the internet. And these wholesalers had them. So I'm like, okay, now I know where to buy the houses.
So you got some social proof.
I had some social proof.
And that changes your mindset.
That changed my mindset. I knew it was possible to buy these houses now. The numbers made sense. And that's how I ended up getting my first property, pretty much, from a wholesaler.
Yeah, but
I didn't even know what a wholesaler was.
Don't want people to underestimate the social proof. You might not think that you're capable, or you might not think that it's possible, but when you see other people in a room and you look at them and you compare them to you and you go, there's no reason why I couldn't do it if they could do it.
On my case, I really didn't need to see somebody having success because I'm very stubborn and I knew that I was going to go buy one and make it happen, even if it cost me a lot of money and it went wrong, because I knew I had to pay for the education one way or another. So, that's actually what happened. I bought a house.
You paid the street.
I paid the street thugs. Let me put it that way, because I bought a house and every thug in the neighborhood showed up to work on that house, and I ended up like putting double the amount of money that I was supposed to. Got taken advantage of. I mean, it was a whole nightmare. But 4 years later, that turned out to be one of my best deals because the house was rented for a long time, paid for, free and clear. So it was money coming in. And then I ended up selling it like, I don't know, I doubled, for what I had on it. So it was a great experience.
It was a good buy and hold?
Yes, it was. I probably, if I would have kept it, that house would be worth probably a lot more now.
Yeah. So, what's your primary strategy?
I don't have one. So the way that we do business is we focus on finding a lead first. Then we nurture the lead and understand what that lead can provide for not only for us, but for maybe our end buyers or some of our business partners or people that are in our network.
So you let the house talk to you?
Absolutely. The house and the seller, right?
Yeah.
Once we know that we have a deal or that we have a motivated seller, we focus on how can we solve their problem, not ours. Ours is always we need money. We need to cash, we need to flip it and make money or whatever, but that's business related. But when we get in with a motivated seller, we want to make sure that they're going to walk away and...
See, this is really key, because I think this business is kind of gone. Like even my business name, cashforhouses.net, it's not the message anymore. The message is, how can I help you? How can I serve you? I'll buy your house if it's the last resort, if that's what you want me to do. In the interim, let's try to figure out what's good for you.
Exactly.
You know what? I've spent 22 years branding that name that I can't hardly turn away from it,
right,
with all the goodwill, or maybe you can, but I've been reluctant to, just because it's been there for so long. But it should be something different. It
is different. That's why, and we named the wholesaling company Same as Cash, because we wanted our offers to be same as cash. When I make you an offer, it's just like you're getting cash. But now that I look at it, it should be like same as free will. I don't know, something to where the seller feels comfortable about. He or she don't think that I'm trying to just take their house away. No, I'm actually helping them, because for the sellers, it's the first day of their life going forward. So we focus on their needs and solving their issue, whatever that issue might be. Sometimes it's not even money. Sometimes it's who's going to move my stuff. We've gotten houses or other wholesalers because we were able to bring a dumpster and a trailer, clean it all up, and move the stuff around.
So let me give you an example of one house we bought that wasn't about the money. The price had been decided a long time ago, but they just wouldn't sign the contract. And so my people called me, my acquisition managers called me and says, I go, what's up with this house? They go, she gets right up to the place where the pin's on the paper, and then the pin doesn't move. She won't sign the paper, and she goes, I don't know what it is. And I said, tell me about her. She goes, well, da 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 da. And she's a hoarder, and she's got all this stuff. I said, she's worried about her stuff.
Yep.
So tell her that you'll include in the purchase go get a storage in her name, and you'll get all that stuff. I don't care if you think it's not worth anything. If it looks like trash to you, put it up, put it in the storage. And that was the day that we bought the house. They went back and said, I said, you know, you got to, what you're saying,
so
think
no problem.
What's the concern of the seller?
So our standard operation, if we notice that they're hoarders, we're including 3 months worth of storage. No questions asked. I mean, it's within the offer, so we put it in our offer. And I can tell you that we've bought probably 20 or 30 houses just because of that. It wasn't because we paid $1,000 more, or you know, that maybe the next guy that's trying to get the property. It was because we were willing to help them with all their baggage.
That stuff, they wanted it. They didn't want to part with it.
Look, 2 weeks ago, we wholesale a house to a local investor. And great house, you know, and that's one of the things I got about wholesaling. It's good for cash flow, but then you're like, man, why did I let that one go? But we wholesaled it. The guy, he jumps on it. He starts working on it right away. And I asked my business partner, Dennis, and I was like, hey, Dennis, so what happened with all the boxes and everything that was in that house that we told the lady we were going to move for her? And he's like, you know what, Ricardo, you're right. I need to call her and find out if the boxes got moved by our guys, because we have a full staff of guys that work on those kind of things. And I just happened to be in the area on my truck. And he's like, let me call her. So he calls her, and he calls me and is like, hey man, they haven't moved them. I was like, okay, tell that lady I am on the way. And I'm gonna go pick up all those boxes and take it to her new place. And we went there, we picked up the boxes, we filled up all the truck. It was a lot of boxes. I got me a good sweat. And then I got to her new place, I dropped off all the boxes, and she was she was happy. Thank you so much, you know, man, you stand up to what you say you're gonna do. And I was like, yes lady, here it is. Is there anything else I can do for you? And she's like, no, that's good enough. And I said, okay, perfect, thank you. And I left, right? And when I'm leaving, I'm driving my truck, and I start thinking about what just took place. You know, me going to her house, picking up her boxes, sweating, jumping up and down. It's 100-something degrees in Houston at the time. And then I was like, man, I went from running a $100 million business into picking up somebody else's boxes, and this fulfills me more than any other thing that I have done in the past. So,
wow.
Yes.
So there has to be a passion behind anything we do, or else it's just work.
It's just work.
And it doesn't seem like work when we're doing.
No.
I mean, to me, like, people say, aren't you stressed out, or aren't you freaking out with all this workload that you have? Like back when I was running 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Right.
It's like, not really. I feel good, you know.
You know, at the end of the day, you're gonna have setbacks, right? Cash flow will get strangled at some point. You're gonna lose workers, or you're gonna lose a very important person on your team. And things will start happening, and you can't really let that bring you down, because otherwise you lose your north. You don't know where you're going. You can't get to where you need to get. And I see a lot of people, they get beat up when adversity comes around. They lose that passion because they're doing it for the wrong reasons, for money. That's the wrong reason.
Money gets pretty empty. So let's play a game. Let's play what's your high and what's your low. My high,
I guess helping people out.
But what's one of the highest moments? Like one of the times you were on top of the mountain, or you felt the best about yourself, or you felt the best about your business. What was your high? What's a big high for you that you remember?
I just don't know yet, because I don't think I have hit a point to where I'm like, I'm at the top of the world. You follow me?
Yeah. I get it.
I'm climbing, right? So to me, now I climb, and then I get to a certain height on the mountain, but I look up, oh, there's still more to go. So the high my last.
Okay, so what's the low? Do you know the low? It's got to be a low.
The low, yeah, absolutely. There's I get lows every week. You know, sometimes you got more month at the end of your money, right? And because you have employees, you have interest that you got to pay on houses that you're rehabbing or remodeling, And that's when you're like, oh man, what's going on, right? You start questioning your business, and you start, trying to adjust it and move things around. You got to let people go. You got to hire some other people. And that's when I probably get at my low, but it's not a low to where I even question whether I should continue or not. It's a low to where I know it's a motivation. Oh, I'm on the rate. Okay, I need to go work harder, right? So that would be my low. But I'm one of those guys that I get pushed by adversity. So some people get fueled by motivation, and they watch all this motivational stuff and unicorns and things of that nature. And life is beautiful, right? And they go to a Tony Robbins event, and they come out and they're pumped up, and they go achieve success. I think I'm the complete opposite. I'm one of those guys that if you tell me, hey Ricardo, I'm just gonna push you over that fence right now, I will be like, okay, where is the parachute? Because I'm going down, but I'm going down hard, right? But I want to make sure I can land. I want to make sure that I can adjust one way or another. So I don't let the lows define who I am. I let it push me to where I want to get.
So I hear you saying, in other words, like you're using your mistakes or the hard times, they're just stepping stones where you're going. I think that's the right way to look at it. I think everyone has to look at it that way.
It allows you to analyze your business as well, right? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What do I really want to do when I grow up? Do I want to be flipping all the houses I am right now? Probably not. I probably want to have more of a passive income, or more of a...
Yeah, but you got to learn this stuff in the streets.
You have to. I mean, you got to go through that, because that's, you get real estate 101, then you go to 102, 103, 104, 105, and eventually, after you go through all of them, you're going to say, oh, you know what? I like wholesaling better. Boom, and you end up and you stick to it. Or you say, hey, the owner financing stuff, that's what I really want to do when I grow up.
So you have to find what turns you on, right?
You pick the one that you want.
And sometimes your market dictates it.
Yes.
A lot too.
Oh, it pushes you into it.
Yeah. So mine went like real estate 101, real estate 102, real estate 103, back to real estate 101, back to 102, back to 101, back to 103.
Well, I'm very much the same way. And I had a private lender that will come to me and say, oh, because we started doing Airbnbs as well.
Oh yeah.
Right, because we get so talking about going back to the leads, right? So we nurture the lead, we understand what they want, we try to solve the problem to the best of our abilities, which is either buying their house or having them own or finance it to us, or subject to, whatever the case might be. And then we say, okay, now that we have a house under contract, what do we do? So the first option is always to wholesale it, because it creates quick cash, it improves our cash flow. But if we can't do that, now we do a rehab budget. Okay, how much do we need to put into this house to fix it all up? And then we start sourcing for private funds to pretty much buy it, fix it, and then turn it around and put it on the market. Then we put it on the market after it's fixed, and it doesn't sell because who knows what. There's too many houses on the market, it's becoming a seller's market, whatever the case might be. Or maybe you're in the wrong area, I don't know.
Or maybe a hurricane hit.
Yeah. So I'm facing that right now. We got 10 houses on the market, and they're sitting 3, 4, 5 months longer than they're supposed to. And I'm becoming a motivated seller, because I'm like, man, I got all these houses ready. I gotta drop the prices so I can compete with the people that are actually coming on the market with cheaper homes.
Seller financing.
Yes, I can do that too. But that's different strategies, right? So we go and we try to sell it. It doesn't sell. Okay, now we go try to find a tenant. If it is in an area where maybe we can Airbnb it, then we'll put the furniture in it and now make more money that way, because it's better than renting.
Yeah. Who did you study Airbnb? Brian Page?
No. I have a friend. His name is Marcos Jacober.
Okay.
He's a tax liens, tax deeds guy in the Houston area, and he came to me one day. I have to introduce you to him. He's a great guy, by the way. He came to me one day to our podcast, and I wanted to interview him about tax deeds and tax liens, which is what he's a master of. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Ricardo, I gotta tell you the new thing I'm doing. And I was like, okay, Marcos, what is it? He's from Brazil, so he's very amicable, I would say.
Yeah, animated.
Yeah, animated. So I was like, what do you got, Marcos? And he's like, you gotta look at my program, Airbnb the Boss. And I was like, what? And he's like, yes, I get to Airbnb houses and I don't even have to own them. And I was like, now you got my attention. So he started telling me about all of these things, right? And then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, he doesn't own the houses, and he's making X amount of money. I own the houses, so
you get to make 2x.
I'm going to make 2x. And I gave him a couple of examples on houses that we were rehabbing. I was like, what will you do with this house? How much will you price it for? And he went in there, and I did the math, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to rent them. They're going to go straight on Airbnb. So we're working on that right now. We're launching an Airbnb business, but it's more like a strategy to offload properties and keep them cash flowing.
It sounds like the Brian Page theory.
I don't even know who it is, but I'm going to look him up.
Brian Page is that exact. He was the guy that was teaching that. The first guy I ever heard. Probably one of the most romantic strategies in a long time in the real estate business.
Okay.
And he did very well teaching that. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, he really intrigued me. But the hardest thing an entrepreneur will ever do is have one great idea and finish, right? So I try very hard, like not to go from one thing to the next to the next. I try
the shiny object syndrome.
I try to stay in my lane, because it seems like every time I get out of my lane, I get hit by a truck.
Well, this is what my private lender said, right? He's like, Ricardo, 1 week you're going to flip a house. The next week you're going to wholesale it. The following week you're going to Airbnb. The other week you're going to, I don't know, do owner financing. I was like, that's the life of the entrepreneur. What do you want me to tell you?
Well, yeah, but I'm going to say probably in a few years, you'll start to see where it's like narrowing down to whatever you gravitate to.
I'm still in the infancy stage, I would say, of my business.
So you're trying a little bit of everything.
We're trying to find out what works best, but
for you,
for us, but not necessarily because it's a great idea. It's because we have a house that hasn't moved. He hasn't sold. He hasn't rented. What do I do next? Well, I gotta go figure something else out.
Airbnb maybe.
Airbnb maybe, or owner financing, or we've listed some for owner financing, and they're going there. So, to me, it's just another tool on the toolbox.
Yeah. Well, look, you've been very gracious. You've driven all the way down here from Houston. I know you've got some concerns, and you need to. Times of the essence. So what would you say to the very new guy out there before we wrap it up?
Take action.
Take action. Sweet and simple.
That's it.
He just didn't even hesitate. Take action.
Take action.
And probably massive action, right?
It depends on where you are. So I tell people you gotta take baby steps. I tell people you gotta take King Kong steps. So it depends on where you are in your business. If you're just learning, then and your action is to get educated, then you need to go do that. But if you've educated enough to where you know how to maybe get funding or how to buy a house or how to do certain things, then you need to go buy a house or you need to go do something. But
take action.
But you cannot stay on the educational portion of your life forever. So learn as you go, and you're gonna make mistakes, and you're not gonna get graded because we're not in school anymore. So it's okay to fail, and if you fail, you go fix it and turn around and do it again, and hopefully next time you don't fail. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah,
it's only money. So
I tell everybody I graduated from La Calle U.
Where's that?
La Calle U.
The street. Yeah, the street. So,
I graduated the most expensive university in the world.
Yeah.
I think I've paid like $850-something thousand already, and they haven't even given me my diploma yet.
Well, I'm probably somewhere around close to that, and I'm a lot younger than you are, so you can see how I fell forward pretty fast, right?
All right, hey man, it's a pleasure.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you. No problem. It's my pleasure.
All right, thank you. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I want to thank you so much for taking time to get you some Ricardo Rosales from Houston, Texas. I hope you guys are making your goals, and it's being a great year for you. Until then, we're out of here.